Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today we have an amazing returning guest. We have Art Lange. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine and eager to get going on this interview.
Excellent. So Art is a farm business consultant from Alberta, and he's joined us on the show before. Today, we are going to be talking about creating strong farm teams and business plans. I love this topic and excited to dive in. Before we do so, Art, do you want to tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I've been a farm business consultant for close to 20 years now, so I think I'm starting to understand the business pretty good. And I work with farm families, especially new startup operations. There are a few of those every year. Farmers that are trying to find direction for their farms, like I was working with one family this morning. Or then, of course, there are always some people that have some financial challenges, and I try and help those out as well.
Okay, perfect. So as mentioned, we're going to talk about creating strong farm teams and business plans and how the two connect. So let's first start with the team building part, and then we'll roll more into business plans and then how they connect. So as you mentioned, you work with farm families, a lot of times, maybe once they get into trouble. So in your experience, why do you feel it's so important to proactively work on building a strong farm team versus just getting it done day in, day out, and not focusing so much on team building?
Well, I recently did a webinar on this topic, and I showed a picture of an analogy. And it was a team of 5 horses, all pulling a plow in the same direction. And of course, this is what we're trying to do on a farm team, is get how many ever people there are all working and pulling in the same direction. So that's important. The other thing that's happening in larger, bigger farms, it's not just a family and a cousin or an uncle. It's quite a conglomerate. And I showed a picture of about a dozen horses in a hitch, all heading the same direction. And you can understand when you get a dozen instead of 3 or 4 people, then you really need big time team building and business planning, because you want all those horses heading in the same direction. And you definitely don't want any lazy ones or any renegades that can really upset the cart, so to speak.
That's a great example and a good picture. You could just imagine a team of horses. Most of them are going this way, and then one guy or gal's going off that way, right? Yeah. That's just going to upset the cart a little bit. So I like that analogy. Question for you. I watched your presentation that you did on this subject, and you made a comment that really stuck with me. And you said it's one of your main takeaways for the importance of team building. And I can't remember the exact wording, so I'm going to say it and hopefully you can pick it up and share your thoughts. So it was to the effect of people are happy to be part of something that they built. And then there's the opposite to that. Do you remember what you were saying there?
Oh, yeah. Very
okay,
clearly.
Good.
That was my basic phrase as far as team building takeaway was concerned from that webinar. And I hope people listening today will get the same message, is that, and it goes like this: people will support what they help to build. In other words, they feel they have had input into the decision that's made, and consequently they feel they have what's called skin in the game, that whatever I do or don't do as part of the overall effort, it's going to affect the total outcome. And if I want my part of the total outcome to be good, the total outcome has to be good. And we just have to pull together. The other side of that is people will resist what is forced upon them. Just imagine yourself. If somebody tells you constantly, okay, today you're going to do this and you're going to do it in this order, and tomorrow you come back to me and I'll give you instructions for tomorrow. Nobody wants to work in a situation like that. Whereas if the goals are clearly defined and most people will say, tell me what you want done, I'll do it. And if I need help, I'll ask you.
Yes, I love that. Okay, that's a really good takeaway. And I can personally relate as a business owner and being an employee before, and also seeing different people that have been part of my team too. And if you just give them the power, exactly like you said, right? They'll just own it. They have skin in the game. So I really like that. I can relate to that. And I'm sure people in our audience can as well. So we're doing a condensed version of activities and consulting and webinars that you've done. So for the sake of time, I know you have some suggestions for the best ways to build a strong team. Did you want to go through and list a few of those for our audience? Because you know what, Art, I know a lot of farmers. We are farmers. I also have that corporate and entrepreneurial background. So this type of activity is common in the workplace. But farmers, a lot of them, I'm thinking of my grandpa and different people going, team building? What are you talking about, Tracy? So this might be old news to some people, but might be very new to many farmers that are watching this. So can you share some ideas on ways to build a strong team?
Yeah, what I suggested in the webinar is that in order to build a strong team, you get all the adult members of the farm unit around the table to talk about things, and we'll get to the subject matter in a minute. And and I also suggest involving the older teens and children, because I think it could be a good springboard for those young people to get involved in succession if they sit around the management table, let's call it that, and have some input and just find out how this actually works. That goals and everything don't appear magically. It's something to be worked through. So what I suggest, first of all, get everybody to write down, what are your goals for this farm, and what are you prepared to do to make this farm successful? So you start with that and collect it from all the people around the table. And then somebody has to do the collation of this material and look at it all and say, okay, we've got a diversity of goals and contributions here. How do we make all that work? And that is going to take a bit of work on somebody's part, because the next step is, after we see all these ambitions around the table and contributions, there may be gaps, there may be overlaps, and it has to be understood. Not everybody is going to get everything that they want. Exactly. They're going to have to say, yes, I'll contribute if I can even get some part of what I'm looking for. And that is going to take usually some pretty good negotiation. And the example I used is quite a simple one. It goes like this. Okay, Dad wants to buy a new combine. It's $800,000. Mom wants a new house. And it's probably going to cost, I don't know, $400,000, let's say. And some of the older kids say, no, we want to go on a trip somewhere or do something. So we've got an $800,000 want here. We've got a $400,000 want, and for simplicity, let's say a $20,000 want. Well, can we accommodate all that in the same year? Most likely not. So let's try this idea. Dad, will you go for a used combine for $400,000? Mom, will you go for new kitchen cupboards for $25,000?
Yeah, there you go.
We just did that in our house, so I know how that works.
Oh, good. The master negotiator, Art. You got to add that to your title.
And the kids say, well, maybe we can go camping during the summertime, or if travel regulations allow, we can go to Hawaii or Phoenix or Florida or wherever. So yes, that's where the give and take then comes in, and trying to negotiate through that based on the available finances, of course.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so really sitting down at a table, exchanging goals, that would be one of your top suggestions for team building. And I imagine to build on that, you would say probably making sure that you do this once a year, quarterly, like schedule it, right?
Well, once a year. Most farms only have income once a year, one crop, one calf crop, one whatever, right?
Yes.
So do it at the beginning of the year, and as we'll get into later, I think, is that winter time for most farmers is the ideal time to do that, when there is a little bit of extra time to work on this.
Okay, perfect. That's a great suggestion for team building, right? Everybody feels heard, gets their ideas.
Mhm.
Okay, I love it. So I would like to, if you're done with that point, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I started this show to bring strong business ideas to the farming community. And I've said it a few times lately. In mainstream business, having meetings, talking about goals, that's commonplace. But I
Yeah.
look at a lot of the farmers. Personally, we do it, but it's just Anthony and I. But I look a lot of the farmers I know, or looking back to my grandpa's generation, he wasn't so much of a team builder. He was a get to the combine, get to the truck 5 hours ago type of guy.
Yeah.
Now our culture is really changing, Art. There's people in my generation, the kids that are coming up after us. We want to do things differently. So I want you to touch on maybe those people that are going, this is airy fairy, fluffy leadership stuff. Why do I need to do this? Let's just farm already.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example. That won't be a really nice one, but it really drives the point home.
Love it.
When a couple of years ago, I was working with a lawyer on farm succession. He's since retired, but he told me this story. He said, I've never seen so many divorces with people in their 50s and 60s. And he said, I can't figure this out. We're talking about farm people mostly. And he said, by the time couples have been married for 30 or 40 years, you'd think things would kind of settle down to some sort of a routine and give and take and all that kind of stuff. But he said, when I started to drill down and try to find out what's going on here, I was hearing things like this. I've worked on, the woman would say, I've worked on this farm for 40 years and I'm really tired of all the constant work. I want a break. I want to do something different before I pass on. And the usual thing at that time was pre-COVID, I'd like to travel, go on a cruise, see Mexico or some other place. I've had it with him. It's all work. There's no play.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing business plans, and I just reiterated with the couple I worked with this morning, I write right in, okay, what is your annual expectation for vacations, for times off, for just having dinners out, just having free time and getting away from the constant work. And you have some farmers really have to ask themselves, are we living to farm or farming to live?
Oh.
And if you think about that for a while, there's quite a big difference.
Yeah, I love that. And that can open a bit of a can of worms. But, being a farmer myself and the female in the relationship, I like working really hard, but I also like the time off the farm, the suppers out, the traveling. And, I'm going to get nasty notes from the farmers here, but it's important, small stuff like this, like you said, can just prevent divorces. We want to do those things where a lot of the men are like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. Men are, I'm being stereotypical. Women are driven. I am as well, but we have different needs. And you're so right. We just need to be clear on those expectations, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that I would just like to add to that, I was on the local ag society here, And it's so hard to get people involved in community events. And I think that's something we're starting to lose in rural Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. People used to be more community minded. Now farms are getting bigger, and there's things like hockey and football and any other number of activities. It's really hard to get people involved in community events. And that's another thing I sort of, well, I'll say harp on, is making time to get involved in the community and helping out and building that community spirit.
Okay. I wonder, Art, I'm curious, and it might take a little while to see this. Do you think COVID's going to change that? It's changed a lot of things and slowed people down. Do you think there might be a reinvigoration of the communities?
I can only hope so.
Yeah.
See my fingers crossed.
It's changed. And I think we may have chatted about this in previous episodes, but our local community, I don't even think they've had hockey for how many years? 4-H has fallen apart. Things have changed.
Yeah. And it's we may be losing some things, but I hope it's not totally lost, because I really work on that and try to stress it a lot, the community involvement. In fact, I read a book once, and it was a book like about 500 pages. It was the, I can't remember the title now, but the fellow wrote about how society has changed since before the Industrial Revolution.
Ooh.
And the three pillars of society: the government, the community, and business. Okay. And two out of those three seem to be doing pretty good. And the third leg, community, I'm afraid it's not what it once was, and I guess nothing is, but let's keep trying to keep that going, because being concerned for the community, our neighbors, and not just, trying to look after ourselves should be an important part of our total lives.
I could see your concern. I even noticed in our lives, Anthony and I were totally different than his parents or my parents in the way we operate in the community. So I could see that. That would be an interesting read. Okay, before we switch gears to business plans, I have a question or statement thought for you, Art. Many farmers, like our farm, we're just really two people. I mean, Anthony farms with his dad. He does a bit here and there, but our farm is Anthony and I. So many farmers, when they look at this, they go, okay, we're two people. Do we need team building? But maybe touch on the fact that a team could be two people in between husband and wife, right? Or parents and child.
Yeah, and upcoming children, that's for sure. But like I said about in my divorce example, is mom being really heard, or is dad driving the wagon, so to speak, here? Because a couple of years ago, before we did our house renovations with the kitchen cupboards, in fact, it was a much bigger renovation where we took walls down and made open concept and all that stuff. We have a 45-year-old house. My wife said to me at supper one day, we've been talking about house renovations for about 5 years. When are we actually going to get to it? Mm-hmm. And I took that as a signal to me that I better get serious about it.
Yeah, good man.
And then I did. So guys, watch for the subtle hints.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So I think that was really good, high level on team building. And of course, I know you work with farmers on team building and business plan and financial stuff. We'll do a call out at the end if farmers want to work with you about any of these subjects a little bit more. I want to roll into business planning. Often you work with farmers on financial and business planning. You've seen good, bad, ugly. Why is it so important to have a strong business plan versus let's farm and hope for the best?
I'm afraid if you're just farming, what tends to happen, especially with new purchases, the quarter across the road has come up for sale. I think we'll go buy it.
Of course.
It's close. Or I was in town today looking at those new combines. Oh, they look pretty good. I think we're due for a new one. Well, how does that fit into your total business plan? And can your farm support payments on a new $800,000 combine?
Yeah.
Or can you afford to make payments on that new quarter or new to you quarter across the road? You have to run the financial numbers to see how the total situations look and what's the long-term plan for your farm. Do you even want to expand?
Yep.
I worked with one farmer and he was very aggressive buying land, and he was able to do so financially. There were no restrictions. But I said to him one day, Joe, and he was at that time mid to late 50s, how much land is enough?
Yeah.
And he said, well, Art, here's the way I look at it. I'm renting a fair bit of land now, and I'm afraid that land could be some of that land could be taken away from me at any time, which is true. He could lose the lease on the land. And so my objective is to keep the farm a certain size that I've geared the machinery for. And when I have the opportunity to buy land and he had the capability to do so, then I will do so to keep my total operation a certain size. So that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
And obviously thought that through very well. But of course, the people that I see in financial difficulty, they haven't looked at the financials ahead of time. And the other thing is, not this past year, but when grain prices are up, but many people had half the crop they usually do, how does that affect your financial projections? Yeah. So in financial projections, doing projections, bankers have a term called sensitivity analysis. Okay. You do one analysis based at normal input cost and market prices. Then you do another analysis and drop the market prices, let's say 15, 20%. How do the numbers look then? Then you do another analysis and increase the cost 20%, like we've seen fertilizer go up now.
Yes.
Much more than 20%. And how does that affect your projections? Then you do a third analysis and combine lower prices, higher costs. And how does that look?
Art, you're not fun. Just bugging you. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But do those scenarios and see how they look. And if you're still comfortable going ahead and making that purchase, fine. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't buy. Just go in with an informed decision and get the rest of your team on side. Is mom on side with this, or whoever else is involved on the farm? Discuss it, talk about it, chew it through back and forth, and then make the final decision.
Yeah. And all this stuff that Mother Nature and the economy has thrown at farmers over the last couple of years, if there's a case for strong business planning, it will have been the last couple of years with drought and then the cost of inputs going up and how crazy things are in the world. I mean, you want a sharp pencil these days. You really do.
Well, and it can be done. Well, I guess if you don't have the expertise yourself, you should hire someone.
A plug for Art and his fellow farm business consultants.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do that work, and I think it'll save so many problems down the line. Like like dealing with farm problem situations gives me a challenge, and sometimes I can make something work, and sometimes I can't. But I just feel sorry for the people that I can't make work. Just earlier this year, I had to recommend one farmer go to bankruptcy.
Shoot. It's heartbreaking, eh?
Yeah. It was sad, but there was just no other hope in that situation.
Well, okay. Hey, let me ask you a question, Art. Would stronger farm business planning years back made a difference to that situation?
It could have. In fact, I started with this fellow about 3 years ago, and he didn't really listen to what I was telling him.
Okay. That same
So
guy.
you can have a business plan, but if you're going to disregard it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean. I thought you meant a different farmer, but that same guy you were working with, and then he didn't listen. Yeah. You know,
I could see the writing on the wall, so to speak, a few years ago. Yeah.
shoot. And it's, you know what? It's not hard either. I mean, a lot of us, if you have software, you enter it, it spits out financials. You
Yeah.
can take that, guess for the next year, right? Based on the previous years. If you need help reading it, work with farm business consultants. I mean, that's what you guys do, right?
Yeah.
We don't all know how to be lawyers, accountants, farm business planners, and we expect ourselves to be. And then we get overwhelmed when we don't know where to start, right?
Well, but the other thing that is starting to be more recognized in the farming community now, that consultants can be valuable.
Yeah.
Many farmers employ crop consultants,
Yes.
a veterinarian, or somebody to consult on herd health issues. Lawyers and accountants, of course, farm business consultants like myself. So it's becoming more accepted that we do bring value to the table. And farmers just see it initially as a cost issue, which it is, no doubt about that. What we bring value to the table. And what I say is that if you're not good at something, let's back that up and turn it the other way around. You do those things you're good at and you like to do. And those things you're really not that good at and don't like to do, get some help.
Yes. You want to hear something funny, Art? And I think this is the bad thing with being a business owner, like an entrepreneur, I can conquer the world. So I've had accountants and bookkeepers for a long time. And I just ended up switching bookkeepers. And I said, you know what? It can't be that hard. And I had simplified some stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to just quickly do my books. I end up gathering all my receipts and putting it with my visa statement and sending that to them. How much harder can it be for me to just do this stuff and balance my books? So here's an embarrassing learning story, because I do it all the time. So I went and sat with my bookkeepers. They no longer had time to help me, so I had to find somebody new. And before I made the decision, I did I'm the entrepreneur, I can do it all. So I sat down with them, and oh my gosh, there was so much more to that I didn't even realize. And literally, so I'm sitting there getting overwhelmed. I'm like, I get this. I could do this. I don't like this. Oh my goodness. And then it was probably about an hour or two into training. I said, I quit. Just stop. I will hire a new bookkeeper and you can train them. And then they laughed and they said, we knew, Tracy, once you came in and sat down, you were going to see how much and decide it wasn't the best use of your time. So, I mean, I still do it after being a business owner. How long, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know one farmer I worked with, going 6 or 8 years back, and he was in deep financial trouble. And his wife was supposed to be doing the books. Well, there was marital issues, and she wasn't doing the books. They weren't up to date. And he had a feedlot as well. So he hired a bookkeeper on a part-time basis to begin with, came in 2 days a week. And last time I was there, I said, the bookkeeper, she seems to be here a lot. And he says, oh yeah, I've hired a full-time. She's here every day. And
wow.
To keep track of the books and all that stuff. So his job is management of the farm. In fact, I've encouraged him to move back from the hands-on work and just manage it, because he's got 6 or 8 employees at any one time.
Yeah. It's so funny. That is the blessing and the curse with being that mindset, that business owner, right? We think we can do it all. We probably can, but we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. And we technically can't, because you can only focus on so many things at one time, right?
Well, as soon as you're focused on something, there's 6 other things that are flying by you.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I love it. That kind of conversation gets me all fired up. And as I just shared, every once in a while, I got to remind myself, no, Tracy, where's the best use of your time? And in the case of you in the audience, where can you best use your time? I'm sure it isn't doing bookkeeping.
Right. And where do you have free time?
Where do you have free time? Yeah.
And the other thing that goes with that, are you setting time away from personal self-development, courses, webinars on self-improvement? I'm a professional agrologist, and part of my mandate every year to get recertified is that I have to do 35 hours of self-study to improve myself every year.
Wow.
So that is another area that farmers really have to be concerned about. And in Alberta, we had a big crop show every year called Farm Tech. Unfortunately, hasn't run the last couple of years, but it was just excellent for upgrading skills, all kinds of workshop, breakout sessions, seminars on various aspects of grain production, including farm business management.
Yes, love it. Okay, I want to now, we're going to work to wrap the episode up here shortly.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to share some of your, where do I want to go right away? Why don't we get you to share your top suggestions on creating a strong business plan? And then we'll move to how farm teams and business plans connect. Does that sound
Okay.
good?
So backing up to the teams thing, okay, we got the teams together. We've done the consolidation of goals and ideas, and then we can move that right into the business plan, because here's what people, the skills they have, here's the stuff they want to do. And obviously, if it's a grain farm, it's going to remain a grain farm. We're not going to go 180 degrees.
Right.
So, but working out the details of that. And then, so we have the team building stuff in front of us. Then we start to work into the financial and the managerial stuff. A business plan consists of three things: the farm history, where are we at now? And thirdly, where do we want to get to, and by when, by what date? In the short term, in the next 2 to 3 years, and the next 10 years.
Okay.
For example, do we want to grow? Depends on your age, right? If you're in your 30s, probably. If you're in your 60s or 70s, probably not. So decide your time frame and your goals to what stage of life you're in, and then set those goals. And if you want to, I'm working on farm succession situations now with people in my age range, the founders, let's call them that. And yes, they want to retire, and we usually set a 5 to 10 year horizon for making that happen.
Okay. Well, and you know what? It's funny, as we all know, time goes by just like that, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know where 2021 went. And 5 to 10 years to work on a big transition, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't wait till the health issue comes, right? I've worked with farm families, and dad had a heart attack, and they said, well, I guess it's time to do a farm succession plan now. So
Oh dear.
we did. Fortunately, he survived, so he was able to talk to us.
Well, isn't that the truth though? It usually takes a health scare or something like that to go, oh, wow, that bit of a shakeup. And then you go, okay, maybe we should do some planning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the human condition too.
Yes, it is.
We think we could do it all, and we think we're going to live forever. Isn't that human beings?
I don't know. Wait till COVID hits you. You might change your mind.
Oh, geez, eh? Hopefully not. Let's hope for health for everybody on camera and in the audience too. Okay, so business plan. It includes the past, the current, and then the plans for the future, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Okay. And I mean, let's touch on this here. If people want to do a business plan, I mean, it doesn't need to be overkill. And there's templates online, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or farm business consultants have them. People can help you with that kind of stuff. And it just gets the juices stirring, right?
Right. And and then if there's younger people involved in the operation, they can see what the operation is, where are we heading? What are we trying to achieve here, right?
Yeah.
Because is it going to be a carrot approach or a stick approach, right? So, and if I'm a younger person, I've been involved in the goal setting, and my goals have been considered and accommodated to some degree, then I can say, well, maybe we don't want to double the farm size within the next 10 years, but maybe if we'll pick up a quarter here, a quarter there, and grow it slowly over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Just a broad plan like that, and then it's probably going to be much more financially achievable than saying, oh, I heard there's a section coming up for sale down the road. Let's grab it.
Yes, I was just going to say, and I was going to give the cow version of that because I'm a cattle farmer. But let's say I'm a parent and we have Susie or Frank, our children that are 22, whatever their age, they're in university. If you're proactively sitting down and looking at that, and you know one or two of them want to come back and join the farm, and you go, okay, well, right now this farm's supporting us and paying the bills. Okay, Susie is coming back to the farm and she wants to come back in about 5 years. So we have about 5 years and we need to increase the herd so that we could support her coming back to work on the farm.
Her and her family, probably.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that gives you 5 years to go, okay, let's add 10 cows a year to get the income to where we can afford it. And that means we just need to keep 10 more heifers or whatever the case is, right?
Okay, and we can't forget about Frankie either.
Frank, right? Frankie. He's coming back, but he's a little bit younger. It's hard to talk about your imaginary children. Yeah, and exactly.
And even if Frank decides to come back to the farm, yes, you're going to have to grow some more or diversify to generate more income. And that's a problem on many small to medium-sized farms as far as succession is concerned. There just isn't enough money being generated by the farm to support 2 or more families. And then what do we do for the off-farm kids? They can't be cut out totally.
Yeah, I know that's a tough challenge that farms face these days, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you look at growing 50 head. Well, you need that much more hay, that much more land. It's that much more debt, and it snowballs from there, right?
Well, the thing is, if you're growing a beef herd, you can keep hold back heifers, so it's not such a big hit for cash flow, except you're selling 10 less calves in the fall, for example.
Yeah. Well, and I like where you say plan proactively, because keeping 10 heifers back a year and taking that hit versus going, oh my gosh, Susie's graduating, she's coming back, we need 50 head. Yeah. Well, keeping 50 heifers, that's going to affect the top line and bottom line. And then now it's a big loan if you want to go out and buy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to buy them now. They're cheap.
Yeah. Isn't that the sad truth?
I just worked with that farm this morning. They were looking at keeping some more heifers back, or even buying younger cows. Yeah.
I know. Oh, the joys of farming. Okay. So that is business planning.
Yes.
We chat about teams. Do you want to move on to how you feel the two can connect? The two do connect?
Well, I thought we sort of inadvertently discussed that. Is that?
Oh, okay, sure.
If you get the goals from the people involved, you decide where the overall farm is going, you build a business plan based on that, and people that have been involved in the exercise will say, okay, yeah, it looks good. I like it. I'm going to do what I can contribute to making that business plan happen. Then obviously a year from now, you sit down again and say, okay, this is what we said last year. What actually happened? Probably wasn't like that. Hopefully it wasn't drastically different. And then we'll readjust and carry on. Or if things are, what I always say, if things are going along pretty good, do it another year. If things are going really well, do you want to be a little more ambitious? And if things are going sort of off to the left side, before things really get bad, have a reevaluation of where you're at and what your goals are. Maybe they're unrealistic.
Okay, perfect.
So
That's a good summary.
annual evaluation is important, and revisiting the business plan. And so,
Okay.
yeah. And the other thing that I think is missing in many farm situations is celebrating successes.
Oh, we
And
don't
I'll
have
give-
time for that, Art. We got to work.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I'll give you a little example from my own experience that cost me almost nothing.
Okay.
The farmer I was talking about previously with the feedlot, he was in serious financial trouble. There was $1 million divorce settlement. He had to remortgage some of his land to pay out to the divorce settlement, and he was in arrears. So it was a really messy situation. I put a business plan together. We shopped it around. Initially, nobody wanted to touch it. Once you're in arrears, you're just like a black sheep. And so I went around, and finally I was able to get one of the major banks to get interested in it. And that took about 6 or 8 months. It was these things take a lot of time. So I said no, I didn't say anything to them. So after it was all done, I thought, well, this calls for a celebration, but being the thrifty German I am, not German, but German heritage, I thought this calls for a celebration. So I went to a liquor store and I found the smallest bottle of champagne that I could find. I think it was about 250 milliliters, and it cost me less than $20.
Okay.
So I took that out to the farmer on my farm visit with some plastic glasses. And I said to him, Joe, it's time to celebrate. And he looked at me and he said, what are we celebrating? I said, Joe, we did this. You hung in there. You had the intestinal fortitude and the patience to see it through. So we're going to have a drink. So I hauled out this little bottle of champagne and little glasses and poured little glasses. And there, he had some of his employees there. And I think his dad was there at the time. And just a little celebration. And that was about 5 years ago. He still talks about that time that we had that celebration, which really didn't cost anything. Well, my cost was back in the fees anyway. So, yeah, just
Isn't that true?
Celebrating successes. And even if you didn't have a great year, go out for dinner, treat the kids to, I don't know, West Edmonton Mall, water park, or some such thing. Just really celebrate successes, because I ramble on. Can I tell one more story?
Yes, please. I
The
love
last
stories.
one, honest.
We love stories. Share.
Our kids are adults now, 42 and 39. So when they were a bit younger, I asked them, okay, we live on an acreage just outside of Edmonton. I asked them, when you were growing up here, what do you really remember about growing up? And they both said something like this. At the time, we didn't have a lot of money. We had a minivan and a little fiberglass trailer, like a bowler. Have you ever seen those little old fiberglass trailers? And we just dragged that around the countryside from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, down to southern Alberta, down the Pacific coast, Vancouver Island, lots of places on summer holidays. And they both said, those are the times we remember most, when we were as a family going together, having a good time camping, and not even spending huge amounts of money. Well, we couldn't do it because we didn't have them. But so ask yourself and your kids, what will they remember about living and growing up on your farm?
Yeah, that's powerful. You're making me think back, and the things I appreciate about my childhood are those exact same things. I didn't know if mom and dad were having a great business year. That doesn't matter to us. Did they have their highest income ever? Heck, we didn't know. The things that matter to us as kids were those experiences that you said, right? Powerful. Okay. I think we are going to wrap it up. Some of the other things I was going to ask you, you covered. Is there anything more that you want to share at this point?
Well, I think I've told enough stories. We better wrap it up. Or people are going to get tired of listening to us.
Oh, no, you're a great storyteller, and stories are great. You know what? They're a great way to learn too. You learn from others' mistakes and others' wins. So those were some great words of wisdom. In a second, I'm going to get you to share how people can connect with you if they want to work with you, talk to you, whatever the case is. But let's leave the audience with that quote that you shared at the beginning. And again, I have to remember, you said, are you farming to live or working to farm? Can you say that?
Living to farm or farming to live.
There we go. That's powerful. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, I think we all do it for our families, but do we forget to stop and celebrate and do all those things that you mentioned, build teams, that kind of stuff?
Take holidays. Go out for supper.
Yeah.
So mom doesn't have to cook.
Exactly. You know, Art, I'll share a quick story here. You know, when you said as the consultant, you brought some wine or champagne to the farmer's farm and did that, you just kind of hit me right in the forehead with reality. So I hired a coach for my business and we're growing. And you know, it took the coach to bring a bottle of champagne and get me to celebrate with the team. And it felt great. And I'm going to embarrassingly admit, do you know, that's probably about the last time I stopped to celebrate. And that was a few years ago. It took somebody from the outside to say, stop, acknowledge, right? Because we're busy. On to the next thing.
We're coming up to Christmas and year end. It's a perfect time, Tracy, to do it again.
Nice. Okay. No recording episodes around Christmas because I'm drinking champagne. Oh, good. I enjoy our chats, Art. Why don't you share your information with farmers and again, how you work with farmers in case they're interested?
Well, of course, now with COVID, most of the work I'm doing is via the web using Zoom, and it works really well for me. So it doesn't really matter where people live or where I live. I can work around that. So
excellent.
Yeah, and my business is called AJL Consulting. I have a website, or you can just Google my name, Art Lange with an E. I know. I won't get into all the details of that. So yes, feel free to call me. I work from a home office, available most days between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Okay. Wow, you work like a farmer too.
Well, it's whenever it's convenient for people. Like we're working with family now on farm succession. We do the Zoom meeting Sunday night at 8:30 after the grandkids have gone to bed.
Yeah, makes sense. Right on. Got to get it done. Okay, Art, this was lovely. It has been a while since we chatted, and I've enjoyed connecting with you again. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing about building stronger farm teams and business plans. This was excellent information. Thank you.
Okay, nice to see you, and maybe we'll do it again someday.
I definitely want to. And you in the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, like it, share it, and get it out there so other farmers can hear the great information that Art just shared about improving your farm teams and your farming operation. Thank you guys, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.